up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, I'm doing well over here. We are fully out of week one and a bunch of exciting games. I think we recorded just before the Ravens and Raiders game on Monday, and that was I don't think we were aware.
That was something else.
Into. Yeah.
That was something. That was interesting. Yeah, that was fun. That's good stuff. It was a good way to end the week.
Absolutely. We can only hope that week two can live up to the hype that week one was. Because I feel like week one gets a lot of hype, and usually it's exciting, but more just because football's back. I don't recall really having this many exciting games in week one, usually. So I don't know if maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't remember it ever really being that exciting.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, you always have, week one, these people that kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember the exciting game part of it as much. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. And then, moving to week two, what makes life difficult in the fantasy world is you start looking at your start-sit decisions, and you have to try to decide what in week one was real and will continue, and what was just like a 1 week blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And that makes probably week two and week three really difficult. After week three, you're pretty confident in the trend. But yeah, it makes it tough, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. You're kind of right in between having, a couple weeks of a trend going, and, just basing it off of draft. So you got to try not to weigh week one too much, right? I think it's maybe a healthy balance between preseason expectations and week one output.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that said, are you ready to jump into some of these start-sit questions we got here?
Yeah. Actually, we were just talking about waivers, and we're not talking about much, but I just pulled up mine while we were talking about it and realized that I got Elijah Mitchell in my home league for $33, $1 ahead of somebody else. So
wow. Now, you said you were in 6 leagues, right?
Yes. Well,
how many bids did you put in on them?
I think I put it in on most of the ones that are deeper. I got him, I think, in 2 leagues. I didn't get him in ours. Got him in 2, and then the other 2 or the other 3 were like not as deep leagues. Didn't really have someone to cut. There's one league that I'm like debating cutting Odell Beckham. I was actually going to ask you about that, just because he's like he's apparently not playing again this week, which is probably a little concerning. And it's like a more shallow league, so yeah, I don't even know what to make him. Have a suicide conversation there for that, but yeah, I
shouldn't have drafted him to begin with.
Yeah,
I think is the answer.
It was one of those. I literally super flex league. Didn't go receiver till late, and he was my 3rd receiver I drafted in like the 9th or 10th round. More just value,
being ruled out this early is not a good thing. Like if he's ruled out Wednesday this week, I can't see him playing next week either.
Yeah, right.
Ideally, maybe we get to like Friday or Saturday next week, and then it gets ruled out, and then maybe he comes in for week 4. But yeah, that's not a good thing.
Not good. No. So there's a couple leagues that I have that are just shallow rosters that there's just not enough to pick them up. But he definitely was added for a pretty penny in all of them.
Yeah, that's fair. And you said you didn't get him in our league. Who was that got him in our league?
That was someone who spent quite a bit. I think I bid 32 on him, and I came in second by quite a large margin there, Steve.
Yeah, what did I bid? I don't remember. 63?
60 some, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I was going to give it my best shot.
Funny thing is, I was the Mostert manager in my home league that I bid 33 for him. So it seems like us Mostert managers definitely, in the leagues we had him, wanted to make sure we got Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to salvage your season somehow.
Yeah. We'll see.
You just got to hope you don't get burned.
Hopefully he actually pans out and lives up to that, because we've seen many a week 1 waiver claims that go by the wayside after just 1 week. So we'll see what happens when Trey Sermon comes in.
Yes, we will. Part of the week 2 fun. I know we'll be talking Mitchell here with a couple of our running back questions. But first, we'll start with the quarterbacks here. Will, would you rather start Mr. Kirk Cousins at Arizona or Teddy Bridgewater at Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because going into the year, I think most people would say pretty easily Kirk Cousins. I'm just kind of weighing everything here. You got Cousins on the road. Is that one in Arizona? Yes, it is in Arizona. Yeah, so Cousins on the road didn't look great. And Arizona's defense looked really good against Tennessee. I don't think we're expecting them to be great all year, but I think that D line was feasting. 5 sacks for Chandler Jones, so it's a little scary. Teddy going up against Jacksonville, who I think we thought was going to be better against Houston. So once again, one of those, what are you basing off of week one? What are you basing off of preseason, right? If you're just going off of preseason, you're probably starting Cousins pretty easily here with matchups looking pretty similar. But after week one, it looks like Arizona is a much more difficult matchup than Jacksonville. I think it's a toss-up either way with these two. I think if you just wanted a good performance, you go with Teddy. Whereas if you want upside, you go with Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't put it past anybody that wants to just go Kirk either way. But I think Teddy Bridgewater definitely has the matchup play against Jacksonville, whereas I'm a little more worried about Kirk in Arizona. But, that could have been a fluke for them as well. I think in a nutshell, I lean Cousins because you probably are going to want your quarterback to score some points, but I wouldn't be opposed. I know Arizona is a popular streaming option there for defenses here. What do you think?
I was actually going to say the same thing that you said as far as like upside goes.
Yeah.
Teddy's probably your safer bet. And Cousins, if you want somebody that's going to throw 4 touchdowns, it's probably Cousins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he could just be getting sacked all day and just not look good. So, the floor is not great. I mean, honestly, the floor is probably not great with either of them. But I think Teddy's probably more likely to be a steady, just kind of solid guy. He's not going to win you the week. He's not going to lose you the week. Where if you're looking at your team and you're thinking you're doomed, you need that upside. Cousins is to play in an absolute vacuum. Oh man, I guess I would go Cousins in a vacuum, but it is pretty close. It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good one. Moving to one that I think just seems like it's asking to be too cute of a play here, but we have Tannehill at Seattle or Jared Goff at Packers. That's a Monday night game.
Yeah, it's too the tale of two extremes. You don't want to look down. You don't want to be down on Tannehill this early because of last week, and you don't want to be too high on Goff. So there's no way I'm playing Goff here. I will take Tannehill pretty easily for floor and ceiling and all situations. The story's there for Goff. You can imagine the Packers are going to come out angry and they're going to light up Detroit, and he'll be needing to throw a lot. So maybe that translates to something, but I'm not trusting him. I'll stick with Tannehill.
Yeah, and that Packers defense, I mean, they looked bad, but last year they weren't as bad as we saw last week, and I'm imagining they're going to get back to tune, especially if you do get the Packers offense going and they start playing complementary football. Packers can, kind of pass rush a little more. I think that's just getting too cute trying to start Goff there, especially in a matchup where Tannehill could have what we expect there from him. Running game going, he can get a couple touchdowns in when they're closer to the red zone. I'm taking Tannehill pretty easily here.
Now the next one, this is a pretty interesting one. You have Jalen Hurts versus San Francisco, or you have Matt Stafford at Indy. What are you doing with that one?
Yeah, this is interesting because I think these are two similar plays. Two guys that people were a little uncertain about. Whether it's new player really. Hurts going into like his 5th start, I think. At the end of the year, there's. And then Stafford going into a new position or a new team. So definitely some uncertainty on both ends there. Both guys performed extremely well. And then you're going up against two defenses that you're expected to be good this year. San Fran looked good and then looked bad all in one game. Indy got torched by Seattle, and I think we're expecting that defense to be better, but it's a tough one. I probably lean Hurts just because I'm imagining. I mean, we'll see if the Eagles defense plays up to snuff there to hold Seattle. But I'm guessing that we're going to see San Fran be able to put up more on the Eagles defense than Indy will on the Rams defense. So it could be, a couple early touchdowns for LA, and then they rely a little more on the running game. I mean, I don't mind either of these guys. I think both of these guys are top 10 starts. So I'm starting them both in different leagues. I think I lean Hurts slightly, especially with just the rushing cheat code that is a rushing quarterback. But I think they're both great plays. What about you?
Yeah, they're both good plays. I'm not as close. I'm a little bit more firmly on Hurts. Hurts against San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because I just, like you said, Indy got beat up last week. The Indy defense got beat up by Seattle a little bit. And I believe in the Indy defense a little bit. I believe in them. They're a good defense. So I think they can bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco, I believe, as well. But I'm less confident there considering you got beat up by the Lions.
Yeah,
big
injury if they got, to the top corner too, right?
Yeah, Verrett went down.
Is it done for the year?
Yeah, tore ACL.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, if San Fran went out and, they won the game, but they got beat up by the Packers or like Seattle or the Rams, then I'd be like, you know what, they could bounce back, they could take the Eagles, but beaten up by the Lions, that's not good. So yeah, I'll take Hurts here. But again, like you said, I have no problem with either of them. I like Stafford, I just like Hurts more.
Right. Next up, we're going to be moving into the running back positions here. I've got a PPR. We're just picking one. We've got Saquon at Washington. That's a Thursday night game. Mark Ingram at Cleveland, Javonte Williams at Jacksonville, Singletary at Miami. So clean sweep of road games.
Yeah, this is one. I am not in the camp of you have to play Saquon Barkley because he's Saquon Barkley. Like I said in our mock drafts, I didn't want him because he was going to start off slow, and then clearly he started off slow and looked bad, and now he's got a tough matchup. So I'm not someone that says you have to play him. I would bench him personally, but I don't like the other options presented to me.
Yeah.
Ingram was good for fantasy, not good as a running back, and had an easy matchup. Now he's got a tough matchup, so I don't want to do that. Javonte Williams at Jacksonville is interesting. That could be something. Singletary looked fine. He had an okay week. I think he put up like 8 points and like a half point PPR or something like that, but there's not a lot of upside there. So despite what I said about Barkley earlier, I will start him over these options. Javonte gives me a bit of a glance, but they're just not a high enough quality for me to set Saquon for.
Yeah. I hate to be fully in agreement as we seem to be so far, but Ingram had a ton of carries and still wasn't efficient with it. 3 backs there, much more difficult game. I'd probably rather have David Johnson than anybody in that matchup because I think Cleveland's going to get up early and Houston's going to be trying to come back. Singletary doesn't do much for me. I know it's a better matchup with Miami, but Miami's still a pretty good defense, so eliminate those two right away. I like the idea of Javonte. I think he's definitely a flex play. I'm playing him in at least one spot, but I just won't get too cute here. I'm going to take kind of the pure upside of Barkley, even in a tough matchup against Washington, especially if Washington, with the new quarterback, we'll see how they do. But if they struggle to move the ball at all, you might be in a situation where the Giants get up and are able to run the ball a little more. I think Barkley had a tough matchup in week 1 against Denver, and we'll see how he is against another tough matchup. But there's just none of these options that are, I think, good enough for me to bench him for. I mean, if you want to take a shot on Javonte because you're really down on Barkley, I won't hate it, but I think Barkley is still the play here.
Okay, this next one's pretty interesting. Not for one of these well, at least and me personally, one of these options isn't great, but the other two interesting. Would you rather start Eli Mitchell at Philly, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at Baltimore, or Darrell Henderson at Indy?
Yeah, it's tough because Mitchell, you spent a ton of your fab or you burned your priority waiver claim on, and I just don't think you can start him this week. I mean, if you have to, push comes to shove, but in most places, even the place that I got him, I don't know that I want to start him because I want to see how it looks with Sermon there with Hasty, probably the lead guy. But as I said, with the Hurts analysis, Eagles defense played well, and they definitely stiffen. They give up some yards, but didn't give up some points. We'll see at home. I know Henderson's not a bad option in Indy, but I think I'm going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tough matchup, but it seems like that's going to be one where there's going to be some points scored. Baltimore and Kansas City, so I'll take Clyde and hope that he gets the volume there. The other two, I think they're all good flex plays. Clyde, I think, is maybe a little more of an RB2 play for me, where the other two are in that flex option. What about you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Henderson's not in consideration. What the Raiders did on Monday against Baltimore, Jacobs had 2 touchdowns. Kenyon Drake had like 5 catches. CEH, I think something like that. CEH can do it all, so he might get all of that.
Yeah.
Could be a high scoring game. Eli Mitchell has the better matchup, you would think. I know the Philly defense looked good, but I don't think most people are assuming it's going to be like that the rest of the year. But you also don't know. But like you said, on the same time, you just spent how much? 70% of your fab on this guy. He's going to put him on the bench.
Yeah,
that's really hard. So I think I would go with CEH too, but it's razor thin for me. It really comes down to like the pass catching that he's going to have available to him, where it doesn't seem like that's going to be something for Mitchell.
Yeah, and it's PPR, so you're going to...
Yeah, exactly. So that's really the tiebreaker, but it's pretty close for me.
All right, our last running back decision here, standard scoring. We got Eli Mitchell again in Philly, Melvin Gordon in Jacksonville, and Kareem Hunt at home for the Texans.
Yeah, so this one, it's not too often we see standard questions anymore, and that has somewhat of an impact. I mean, I said Mitchell's not the pass catcher there in San Francisco, not at least based on week 1. Melvin Gordon could catch the ball, but I'd imagine they'll be using both Javonte and him for that. And then Hunt, I mean, he's primarily a pass catcher. He does it both, but from a fantasy standpoint, you like him for his pass catching. So I think I'm going to rule out Hunt because it's not a PPR. Gordon has a good matchup, but I'm not sure I trust him. He had that one big breakaway, and outside of that, nothing. And you can't just take that away. Like, the points are the points, but like overall, it didn't look great outside of that one play. And then Mitchell's just got the matchup, everything I said before. So I think I'll go with Mitchell here pretty easily because it's standard.
Yeah, I'm leaning Hunt in this one. I mean, I think they're all decent plays. I think for me, I think Hunt is the game script is gonna really work in his favor. I could see it being one of those where Chubb isn't even playing in the fourth quarter and it's all Hunt. But I think that they are going to control the game by running the ball, and both of them are going to get more than enough volume. Whereas you're going to be hoping that, it's Melvin's game and he breaks, another 60-yarder. That really saved his day. I mean, he was going to have a decent game, but that long run really helped Gordon. And then Mitchell, I mean, you're just banking on him being the lead back and, probably getting in the end zone, getting enough volume. Whereas I think they're going to really split the ball there. So I'll take Kareem Hunt here pretty easily.
Now, Will, if you'd like a little bit of breaking news,
Ooh.
I'm not sure it totally matters, but the 49ers have claimed Trent Cannon off of waivers from the Ravens.
Did you already put your jersey order in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd imagine they're just loading up on, they add Carry On, they added him, maybe they'll add someone else, and, 2 of them wind up getting cut, one will get cut. They just got to figure out somebody else that can get on the roster, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll have a major impact. But yeah, we can move along here, Will. We got moving on to wide receivers, half-point PPR. Corey Davis versus the Patriots, or Tim Patrick at Jacksonville.
Yeah, this one I think is pretty easy. Another guy that you picked up with Tim Patrick, but I kind of, if I have to play him in like a flex position, I'm okay with it. But I want to see if he steps in and just gets all of those targets that we expected to go to I'm not blanking on his name. We got her, Jerry Jeudy. But I could see, Hamler maybe getting an extra couple targets. They work in the tight ends as Albert O's there on top of Noah Fant. So still a lot of options there. I think Patrick is going to get a good chunk, but I like Davis just as like the pure volume play. Like he he killed it this week because of the touchdowns and they were late, but he still had a good bit of volume. I mean, I think he still would have been over, 10, 12 points before the touchdown. So I'll take Corey Davis pretty easily here, even in the tough matchup against New England.
Let's see. We finally differ here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we differed on the last one, but we're definitely differing here. Davis is the volume play. He'll get plenty of volume, but you got to imagine he's also going to get Gilmore, which would be concerning. Mm-hmm. So I would be worried about playing him, and I am more confident in Tim Patrick. We've seen a lot of consistency out of him, and he's got the easy matchup. And I guess to put my official stamp on it, when I got Tim Patrick on our waivers, I took Corey Davis out of my starting lineup and I put Patrick in. So put my money where my mouth is. I didn't even realize this question was related to me before reading it.
This wasn't you?
Yeah, this wasn't me. No, I was pretty confident in that decision. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Right, and then next up here, we've got Christian Kirk. And this is full PPR. Christian Kirk against the Vikings, Sterling Shepard at Washington.
I think this is probably, to me, a tale of upside and floor. Kirk's going to have the bigger upside, as we saw in week 1. But I think he's got the lower floor, as we've seen throughout the rest of his career. And meanwhile, Shepard, I think, is probably just going to be your steady guy. Yeah, he could pop off. He scores a touchdown or something, but he'll probably just be in the middle somewhere. He'll get a lot of volume, so his floor should be fine unless he gets hurt. He's hurt a lot, so that's a possibility. But I think, like in an absolute vacuum, I think I would go with Kirk because he looks like he's got a better matchup. I don't know what to make of this Giants-Washington game in general. It could be very low scoring with the Washington defense being good, their offense being a question mark, the Giants just not looking good in general. I don't know what to think of it, so I'm not really interested in playing Shepard.
Yeah, this one I'm not really. I feel like I'm not interested in either. I feel like you're chasing the points for both definitely. These guys. I think I lean Kirk. I think it's, they're looking for a guy to step up as the number 2 there. I mean, we'll see if AJ Green, can show. I know he got some targets there, didn't catch a lot, but you got Rondale Moore and you got Christian Kirk. I know Moore caught, didn't have run a ton of routes, but he caught a bunch of passes from of his targets. So he could step in and take some away, but they both played well. And this could be another game where you're going to have some high scoring, whereas I could see this being an ugly Thursday night game with New York and Washington. And we still have obviously Kenny Galladay there, and who's the Slayton? Yeah, Slayton.
I think
I don't think the tight end Ingram's playing, but Barkley there. There's just a lot of to be spread around, and Washington's a really good defense. So I don't like either, but I would rather play Christian Kirk there.
Okay, and our last wide receiver on half-point PPR, you have Cooper Kupp at Indy or Antonio Brown versus the Falcons.
Yeah, both guys, I think these are both good plays here. I think Cooper Kupp, I think he has found his new best friend in Matt Stafford. Obviously, going into the year, we weren't sure what it was going to look like, but it seems like he is going to be the number 1 on the team, and he could flirt with top 12 weeks, every week, just with the volume that I think he's going to get there. Woods is going to be good as well, but it seems like Kupp is the clear number 1. Whereas AB, you're going to, it's going to bounce back and forth between the guys, and he's a good flex play. Play him at the wide receiver 2 if you have to. But I think he's a really good flex option. But I think Cooper Kupp is locked and loaded here the rest of the year.
Yeah, this could be, for AB, this could be a Panther situation last year where, any given week, take DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel, and 2 of them had good weeks and the other one didn't. AB could be anywhere between perfectly fine to great. Or he could just be the odd man out that week.
Yeah.
Where Cooper Kupp has the same upside and I think a higher floor because he's just going to get fed. So yeah, it's Kupp pretty easily for me, despite having what I think is going to end up being a more difficult matchup.
All right. In our final matchup here, we've got a tight end and flex. So is this saying 2 Just we're picking one of these guys, right?
Yeah, just a regular flex question.
Yeah, so full PPR, Jamal Williams at Green Bay, Mike Williams at home for the Cowboys, and Christian Kirk at home for the Vikings.
Pretty easy for me. We talked about Kirk. If you need a high upside play, he's probably got the highest upside. I don't know if that's true. I'm just going to take Kirk out entirely. Jamal Williams is good. He could be fine, but he's a player where I'm going to need to see a couple more weeks out of before I start trusting him with my lineup. Meanwhile, Mike Williams, I trust plenty. I don't trust
as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Exactly, as long as he stays healthy. But he's got a good quarterback. He's got a good offense. He gets a lot of targets. He's a big guy that can touchdowns.
Last week too against Washington. Like that's the tale of two, night and day here going up against the Dallas defense.
Yeah,
it could be a field day.
Yeah, they should tear it up. And on the flip side, the Cowboys are a good enough offense to put up points on the Chargers. So it could be an interesting matchup. Yeah, so easily Mike Williams for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I always hesitate to not start the running back just because you could get a lot of volume there. But if Swift's playing, it's probably going to be a 65-35, 60-40 split. So you're limiting your upside unless Swift goes down. I don't mind playing Williams if you have to, but I'm happy to flex in or even throw Mike Williams as wide receiver 3.
Cool. And we are going to move over into our trade questions. So per the normal, we got 5 questions here, 2 Dynasty, 3 redraft. We're going to start with Dynasty. Will PPR, an interesting question considering both are, one's done for the year and one's not doing too much. But would you straight up in a PPR rather have Brandon Ayuk or Jerry Jeudy?
Just regular. I'd rather have Jeudy. I think it's just a better player overall. Obviously, the offense, and you have ideally the future quarterback there with Ayuk. Now, if you're looking at it from you're a contender and can win this year, and you think Ayuk can step up and get back to what we saw last year, whereas Judy's probably out half the year here, I get why you might say, let me, trade Jeudy for Ayuk to just get a guy that can play this year. But I'd be more inclined to stay with the Jeudy side, especially here in Dynasty.
I think I would as well. He has the better upside, I think. But part of that's because Ayuk has so many people around him, Debo and Kittle. And you could say the same for Jeudy. He's got Sutton and he's got Fant, but there's a big difference between Kittle and Fant. There's a lot more passing work going to the running backs and the fullback in San Francisco. But you have the future quarterback stuff situated. You got a head coach in San Francisco. So I get it. But yeah, it's going to be Jeudy for me as well. There's too much upside there.
All right. Another PPR dynasty here for us. Najee Harris or Tyson Williams, Jalen Waddle, and $10 fab.
Well, the $10 of fab is meaningless.
Yeah.
Unless your starting budget's $10.
Yeah, unless you're giving your whole fab, and even then, it's like.
Yeah, like I don't care. Like that can go. But I mean, make it $1,000 in fab, and I'm still taking the Najee side. That he's a good starting running back. I feel like you're selling low because he didn't have the best week. Tyson Williams is fine, but he's a guy that you'll have this year, and maybe not. I mean, we only saw 1 week. He got his job in a few weeks.
We saw half. I mean, Murray outsnapped him by the end. And
you haven't seen a lot.
The guy.
Yeah, and you got to think back to years past where, it was Justin Forsett for a few weeks, and it was Alex Collins for like half a season, and it was Gus for a little while, and you just keep replacing people. So, no, not interested. Waddle's an awesome piece. He's a good starting point. But no, I need something better than Tyson Williams. Maybe if this is a redraft, maybe, but still even then, probably not. But Dynasty, easily Najee.
Yeah. Everything you said makes sense. Najee, easy here. You're trading the 101 for the 105 and, a couple fab dollars and undrafted free agent likely. So you're going to, even though Waddle probably has maybe a longer fantasy value career, you're getting the prime years of Najee volume-wise, and you're also, you can get much more for him in Dynasty right now and even in the next few years.
Yep. Absolutely. Going to a redraft is a bit interesting. We don't have the scoring format, but there's no starting tight end, but they do have a wide receiver, running back, tight end flex spot. So would you rather have Darren Waller or Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, that's tough. Waller obviously 19 targets. I don't know if he sees that again this year or ever, but 10 catches. I mean, he clearly is the only person that Derek Carr wants to throw the ball to. But Justin Jefferson, I think this is a good kind of buy low week for him almost, just with the volume that we saw Thielen getting. What did Thielen score twice? I'd lean Jefferson slightly just because of the flexibility. I think they're both great players. Waller, you're kind of shoehorning him into that flex spot, and then you're not starting a third running back. You're not starting, a fourth receiver, depending what you get. Whereas Jefferson, you have the flexibility of putting him in the flex spot or the receiver. Obviously, it's probably only, 4 or 5 tight ends that people are going to roster and start anyway. But I think I lean just the flexibility of the wide receiver position in Jefferson.
See, I think I'm on the opposite side. And I get the flexibility conversation. I don't think I could pass up the volume.
Yeah.
There's just Carr does not look at anyone else other than Darren Waller. It's the same story year in, year out. I don't know if I could pass that up. Jefferson's going to have some great games. But I don't, Waller's going to have great games, and I just don't see, where he has multiple bad games in a row. He'll have a couple because everyone has a couple, but he's just going to be so steady and just high end steady too. I don't think I could pass that up, but I get the flexibility. You do lose some flexibility with him. So I totally get that, but yeah, I think I would go with Waller here. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. I think it's a fair trade overall. Both are good options. Next one is very interesting. I feel like this is a very buy low trade here. Redraft PPR, DK Metcalf and Aaron Jones for Justin Jefferson and Kareem.
Yes. So when you said interesting, I looked at it and I was like, I don't think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But from a standpoint of you're trying to buy low on somebody. Yeah, it is interesting from that standpoint. I'll take the Metcalf side pretty easily. I don't think, he's in for a great year. Aaron Jones is going to have a great year. The Packers offense will figure it out and turn it around. Jefferson's, he's good. He'll probably be right up there with Metcalf. So that's fine. But I think there's a big difference between Aaron Jones and Hunt. Barring injury, Hunt becomes a really big deal if Chubb goes down. But we're not going to take that into consideration really. So it's a Metcalf, Aaron Jones side pretty easily for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm right there with you. I think even off a down week, DK and Jefferson are very comparable, and Aaron Jones, unless you have inside knowledge that Aaron Rodgers is getting traded tomorrow and Green Bay is completely imploding, I think Aaron Jones is much higher. So you're getting a huge upgrade at the running back position for what I consider pretty much a lateral, if not an upgrade at the receiver position.
Okay, and our last question, Will. This one I think is you look at it and think it's gross, but it might be pretty close. And at PPR, would you rather have Jamal Williams or James Robinson?
Yeah, this is tough because I think with Jamal Williams, you're banking on, a depth piece unless you have Swift go down, which we've seen it happen, last year. And obviously here in the preseason, it wasn't healthy. Whereas James Robinson, it might be a good buy low time. He also, could be just stuck with Carlos Hyde and a bad offense. That's all we have to go off right now, Jacksonville. I think it's not a bad buy low on James Robinson, where even if he does flame out, you lost Jamal Williams, which is tough, but it's you can find a Jamal Williams depth piece on the waivers, whereas it'd be tougher to find the upside of James Robinson.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about the upside and the potential that is James Robinson. And that potential, again, like you said, without injury, doesn't exist with Jamal Williams. So it's James Robinson to me. He's actually one that I've debated because I'm sitting with Ingram in our league, and I'm thinking maybe I could throw out a trade at Ingram for Rojo or Ingram for James Robinson and see, if someone wants to just bail on them entirely. So I'm kind of thinking in the same mindset, and that's kind of what they're doing here. I mean, Jamal Williams is, I think, better than Ingram. Not a starter, but still, I think probably better. But yeah, I would want the upside that Robinson would present.
All right. So that wraps up here our Start Sit episode. First full round of episodes here for mid-season with waivers a couple days ago, which is now out. May not do you very much good unless you have a late running waivers. And this episode here coming up for week 2. Good luck, everyone, in your week 2 matchups, and shoot any more questions you have over to us throughout the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And per the usual, folks, trust your board.